Hello, my name is Mariella Herberstein and I'm the Chair of Academic Senate at Macquarie University. Now this is my third video blog to summarize the last Senate meeting held on September 13, 2016. The minutes of this Senate meeting will be available on the Senate webpage, as is the Senate in brief that summarizes all Senate resolutions during the meeting. The full minutes will be available on the same website once they have been ratified at the November 1 meeting. You can find the URL below. Back to the meeting. As is usually, we started the Senate meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the country. We welcomed visitors and observers, and we approved the minutes of the previous Senate meeting. A number of business items arose from those meeting minutes, including an update from the newly formed Research and Research Training Committee, update on opening access to all iLearn units for staff, and an update on the membership of the Senate Learning and Teaching Committee. Briefly, Professor Amanda Barnier, the Deputy Chair of the Research and Research Training Committee, reported on its inaugural meeting and described the immediate priorities of the committee, which includes a response to the external review of the MRES program and the establishment of a working group on interdisciplinary research. The Research and Research Training Committee will, in future, report back on these items to Senate. Professor Sherman Young, the PVC for Learning and Teaching, reminded senators that from Session 3, all staff will have access to the 2016 units on iLearners, but not to student information or confidential information on iLearn. Senate had endorsed this move in its May meeting to facilitate the exchange of teaching, innovation, and collaboration. Next on the agenda was my report to Senate, where I raised 2 points. One was the co-option to Senate to ensure an Indigenous perspective for Senate, and the second was an update on the state of the Senate project. With the resignation of the head of Indigenous Studies, who holds an ex officio position on Senate, we have lost an important Indigenous perspective. So I propose to co-opt Associate Lecturer Judith McKay Tempest until the end of the year to provide this perspective for Senate, and the nomination was approved unanimously. I then updated Senate on the progress of Senate projects as summarized in the table that you can see now. Overall, the projects are progressing well, with several scheduled to be completed by the end of the year. The next agenda point was the Vice Chancellor's oral update. The Vice Chancellor advised Senate that the DVCA, Professor John Simons, had signalled his retirement at the end of the year, and he also updated us on the imminent appointment of the Executive Dean for the Faculty of Business and Economics. He further commented on government changes to processing international student visa applications and on the intent by the Minister for Education and Training to make admission processes, especially around ATAR, more transparent. On internal matters, the Vice Chancellor advised of the launch of the Respect Now Always campaign, the strategic funding for the PACE program. He reported on an increase in the Global Leadership Entry program and the successful launch of the new MyMQ student newsletter, and also the successful launch of the MQ Health. During question time, senators were advised of the 2016 Australian Collaborative Education Conference, and that the most read article in the new MyMQ newsletter was actually the new assessment policy. We then moved to items on the agenda that required Senate approval. Now, for a full list of all approved items, please visit the Senate in brief link on the Senate website. We approved the new University Medal Policy and Procedure, the new Academic Progression Policy and Procedure, and the recommendation of the Placement Coordination Task Force. We further approved the grading classification of the Bachelor of Engineering Honours. There was some discussion on grading hurdle assessments and what mark to allocate to students who may have passed the unit overall, failed to pass or submit a hurdle assessment. Senate resolved that students be awarded a mark of 49 with a separate grade category. Now this completed the items for approval, and we move to items for discussion. We first had a presentation by Nicole Gower, the Director of Human Resources, on the new honorary appointments policy and procedure and on the new academic promotions policy, which will be implemented in 2017. Both items received lively feedback and comments. Next, we welcomed the new Director of the Indigenous Strategy, Leanne Holt, who presented the key elements of the university's newly launched Indigenous Strategy. Following this presentation, Senate discussed a draft proposal for the new academic appeals policy and procedure. The General Counsel, Paul Luttrell, provided background to the document, which aimed at providing a consistent approach to academic appeals at Macquarie University. Feedback was elicited and received from the floor, and further feedback was planned from consulting with a broader student group on these documents. Finally, we heard an update on the Academic Integrity Working Party, chaired by Professor Judy Homewood, to prioritise a recommendation from an original report by Professor Dom Verity. This brought the meeting to a close. The next Senate meeting is on November 1 at 9:30. Staff and students are welcome to observe the meeting, and please email Senate to indicate your attendance. And with this, I'll end my video blog. As always, if you have any comments and suggestions, please contact me directly on the email you can see below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.